Hi, welcome to Community Homeworks Workshop this evening. We're glad you're joining us. My name is Jason Byler. I'm the Education Manager here at Community Homeworks. If you're watching this live, please comment and let us know where you're tuning in from. We'd like to know where our audience is from. Also, if you'd like to join in the discussion or ask a question, please put that in the comment section as well. We'll try to answer that question during the broadcast. If you're watching this after the live broadcast, we're still happy you're here joining us. But when you make comments in the comment section, it's going to take us a little longer to get a reply to you. So you'll need to be a little bit patient with that. Community Homeworks is a nonprofit organization. We have a mission to empower homeowners to maintain safe, sustainable, and dignified homes. We get funding from grants and from gifts and from donations. So if you find value in tonight's workshop, please go over to communityhomeworks.org and donate to help us with these programs. Tonight's workshop is plumbing systems or understanding plumbing systems. This is one of our core programs, our core workshops. Basically an overview of the plumbing in your house and how that should work and how it should what safety devices are in place and all that sort of thing. It's not a class to try to help you replumb your house. It's more of a class to help you understand what plumbing is in your house and hopefully to get you better informed so that if you need to hire a plumber or something like that, you have a little bit more knowledge so you're not taken advantage of by a contractor or whatever. So we want you to learn a little bit about plumbing. We don't want you to learn a lot about plumbing. We don't want you to be able to replumb your house after tonight. Our instructor for tonight is Lee Taylor. By day, Lee Taylor works for Habitat for Humanity, and in the evenings, he comes and helps us out with classes here. Joining us also tonight in the studio is Lee's lovely wife, Lori, and she is doing our filming for us. So you probably won't see Lori, but you might hear her voice, but we're glad they're both here. There we go, Lee.
All right. Anything else to add, Jason?
I don't believe so. If you have questions or comments, folks, please write them in the comment section.
All right. Well, again, thanks for coming. Like I said, this is plumbing systems. This class really has been broken down over the years into, 3 or 4 different classes. Some of the more detailed classes are the sink and drain repairs, water heater maintenance, toilet repairs, that sort of thing. So a lot of what I'm going to touch on today is going to be expanded more in various classes. So, and like Jason said, if you have questions, ask, and I'll try to be able to answer them. Did we have any questions from last week? I can't remember if we had any from last week or we didn't have any
last week,
a couple weeks ago. Last time.
I don't believe we had any leftovers from last time, but I'll check to make sure.
Okay. So like I said, this is just a basic overview as far as, water going in, where it goes, how it gets out of your house, and some of the common things to look out for. Is that I will be touching on some of those areas that will be expanded in later. So I like to start this class talking about, I'll start with water in. So water always comes into your house, comes in variety of ways. It depends whether you live on, whether you have a basement in your home or you're in a crawl space or a slab. So for here in Michigan, or here in this area, you have, well, everybody has what's called a water meter. And this is basically a way for the water company to be able to keep track of how much water you're using. The water meter is, I'll draw this real quick. See if I can draw real bad here. So, I'm not going to draw with that. There's your house. Boy, it's a bad house. So let's pick on a house that has a basement first. All right. So a lot of times that water, here's your grade. A lot of times that water is coming in at a deep, and it's popping in like this. And then you'll have your water meter right in the basement. And then from that point, it will branch off and feed the rest of your house. So the main thing, the reason I'm saying that is, and this is for a basement. So the reason I'm saying that is usually when they say ahead of the water meter, what they're talking about is from the water meter into your home. So the water meter itself, and again, this is here. I imagine it would probably be the same pretty much everywhere else, but the water meter belongs to the water company. And then everything behind the water meter out to, let's say, the road where the main water is, and that main water taps into it. Water is running this way. This line, or your supply line, belongs to the water company. And then the meter itself belongs to the water company. So the reason I say that is this. So if you look at a side view, this is kind of really crude, but it's really crude. But let's say this is the roadside.
It's not how you spell road.
And this is the home side. I'm tired today. So let's say you have this in your basement and you have water dripping and it's on the side that's actually punching out into, through your basement wall. That leak is the water company's, usually the water company's responsibility. I've seen it where people have, a major leak like that and it's flooding their basement or whatever. If that's the case, give that water company a call and they'll get out there and be able to get that fixed. It's also the water meter itself is the responsibility of the water company. So here's the thing. So let's say that you have water leaking at this point right here. That's not your responsibility. Or let's say you have a break in the line and you got water leaking into the ground. All right. As long as it's behind that water meter, that is the water company's responsibility. So how do you know if that's happening? Sometimes what will happen is you may have an extremely high water bill. If that's the case, you can ask them to come out and be able to check that. Because that, again, that is their responsibility. So I've seen it where they have some kind of a leak underground or a leak right before the meter or a leak right at the meter or the meter's cracked or something along that line. So understanding that. And then from the meter up to wherever it's going in your house, to your toilet, to your sink, wherever, that's all your responsibility. There is what's called a turnoff. And this is a turnoff. It usually looks, something like this. I mean, you may have a copper line like this coming. You may have the water meter coming in. And the turnoff is usually right. That's what that is right there. Is right near that water main or that water meter. So again, with most turnoffs, this is a ball style turnoff. I'll show you a gate style turnoff here in a minute. But most of the newer ones are ball style. If it's running with the pipe like this, it's open. It's against it like that, it's turned off. And you can actually see this. I don't know, actually be able to see that inside there. It actually has a little ball, opens that up in line. closes. These are nice because the other style of valve is, oh, I'll grab one from here. Looks sort of like this. This is what you call a gate style valve. Pay no attention to this, but it's the handle part where you have to turn it. What this is doing is closing this down and stopping the flow of water. The reason I don't like these for a main turnoff is they can seize up. They can be hard to shut. Sometimes you can't actually shut that water down. So, like I said, if you have a main turnoff in your house, go look for that water meter. You find the main turnoff. If it's a ball style valve like this, go ahead and give it a turn or two and make sure that it's operating good. If it's a gate style valve, like a turn style valve like this, you can go ahead and give it a turn. I will say this, sometimes when you go to turn these, especially if they haven't been turned off in a long time, they may be really hard to turn. Sometimes they won't be leaking until you do turn them. Back to part of the reason I don't like them. But, that's one of those things. And if it's totally seized up, where you can't turn it no matter what you do, don't get a tool on it. A lot of people will, say, oh, it's jammed or something. So I'll get a pair of pliers and well, you can ask to break that thing. So that's one of those things that you want to be able to turn that valve, because if for some reason you have a major leak, flood, whatever, you want to know where that main turnoff is, and you want to be able to actually be able to shut that water off. And again, back to the ball valve, I can shut that water off real quick. So just understanding that. So this is the basement. The other is back to the good old house. So with us here, if you have a crawl space or it's a slab, meaning there's no basement, no crawl space or anything, what happens is out in the yard, you have what looks like a manhole cover, like one of those things you see in the street.
A little one.
No, sometimes they can be about that big. They can be about that big. Most of the time around here, they're about this size. So they're a decent size. Now, a lot of times, they're covered up with dirt and everything else. But if you were to take that plate off, that big metal plate, you would see a pit, and down there, that's the water meter. As the police go by. So the same rules apply. What goes out to the street, that belongs to the water company. The water meter belongs to the water company. But however far that meter pit, they usually call it a meter pit, is from your house, all belongs to you, or belongs to the person who owns the property. So if that's the case, and this, like I said, if it's a slab or on a crawl space, still go down and look. You should still have some kind of a main turnoff. And the reason for that is, like right now it's wintertime and you have a ton of snow and everything else over that meter. And if you really need to shut that off, the last thing you want to be doing is going out digging for it, looking for it. Even when it's not snowing, it can be a bit of a pain to find those. You do have what's called a Ford box. This is a small little metal cap, and that again goes down here. This is what the like if you don't pay your water bill, water company comes out and shuts you down. That's their turnoff. That's not what you need to be concerned about. So your meter pit, you should have some kind of a turnoff inside the home, whether it's in a crawl space or it's coming up in the home somewhere. So just understanding that and identifying it. And if you don't, there are houses out there that don't have it. It might be something you want to get installed. You can get a qualified plumber to be able to come out. They can be able to cut that line and get a main turnoff put in. So it's important occasionally, and when you need it, you need it. So there's no real in between sort of thing. So like I said, water comes in the house. And then it depends. Like I said, there's a lot of ways that water can be distributed throughout the home. So I'll start with oldest first. Got good old galvanized pipes. These are have a gray color usually, and fittings and whatnot. And the pipes all get connected together and they branch off and they go to various parts, bathrooms, kitchens, that sort of stuff, right? So you have the galvanized lines, and this is 3/4 line. There could be half. Could be a lot of different styles. So a lot of the older homes have that. They also have copper lines that they're sweated, sweat fit. And then this branches off, like I said, to your bathroom sink, your kitchen sink, whatever. Sometimes you may have what's called PEX. This is most modern houses. PEX has been around for a while, about at least 20, 25 years. So,
Well, our house has some copper, some plaques.
Say that again.
Our house has
yeah.
a mixture of the two.
Yeah, I was going to get to that one. So yeah, PEX line is just like I said, this is plastic line. Plumbers have a tendency to use this now because the reasoning is that it's flexible. They can get around areas and they can install it faster. They can install it faster. Generally, that means that the cost of putting it in is less expensive. So they still have fittings and whatnot, but usually that PEX is a lot easier to work with. So, like I said, usually 3 or 4 different types of supply lines that you may find in the home. As far as how this is run, so I'll come over here. So here's our little model here. You got, copper lines, and they're coming up like this, and they're coming up, and they run to turnoffs for your sink. So let's say this is your bathroom sink, right? So underneath here, this is what's called, this is a 1/4 turn valve. So, and again, these are the same way. So this is what's called a 1/4 turn valve. It's similar to a ball valve. And the reason they call it a 1/4 turn is you can only turn it a 1/4. So against the pipe like that, that's closed. In line like that, that's open. And what that's doing is it makes it so you can shut your water off at the source, be able to disconnect your water lines. And we'll talk about these in a minute. These are what supply your bathroom sink. Kitchens, pretty much the same way. Those are the ones that are tricky. Now, remember I talked about gate style valve. With those, and here's one right here. This is a 1/4 turn also. And again, if you looked in there, which is too hard to see, but it's a little ball valve. What happens with these is that the older ones were gate style, so you had to turn, right, to be able to shut your water off. Let's say you had to fix your change the faucet out or change out a valve or something along that line. So ideally what you want to do is go through and identify where these are. And again, they're usually underneath your sink, your kitchen sink, your bathroom sink, next to your toilet, that sort of stuff. And what you want to do is try to give them a turn. If they are not turning, this is where, you can get into, we can get into how to change them and stuff like that in some other classes, but not tonight. But again, if you can't turn that water off, what you end up having to do is, let's say you do need to do a repair on your faucet, you have to go find your main turnoff and shut off all the water to your house just to be able to deal with something on your sink. So it's that whole wonderful thing of use it or lose it. And these have a tendency to seize up over the years. And again, with the gate style type, if you turn it, sometimes it likes to start to leak. So what I'll say is that you should be doing that about once a year. Just in your typical routine. I mean, you can do a house in like 3 minutes. Go in there, just operate them. Turn them once, turn them twice. You're good. It just kind of keeps them moving and makes it so that they're less likely to seize up. If they are seized up,
you have them.
Say that?
So if you need them, you have them.
Right. Yeah. So if you need them, you definitely have them. So If they are seized up, they can be replaced. I'll pick on these guys right now. They have what are called push-on styles. So this is a push-on style. This is 1/2 inch, right? And if you look in there, I don't know if you can see it or not. This is where in person so much nicer. It has little teeth.
Oh, yeah,
in
you
there.
can't see that.
Yeah, you can't see them. So this has little teeth. And what you can do is, it doesn't matter if it's copper. I don't have 1/2 inch copper here, but I have 1/2 inch this. So I can fit that in. I'm not going to deal with this right now. I can fit that in and press this on. And what those teeth do is they grab on to whether it's PEX or whether it's copper. It does not work on galvanized pipe, as far as I know. Someone could surprise me and say, oh yeah, they're making one now. But they have what are called Pushon valves. And they have ones that are this style. So you can actually, go out and buy these. You shut off your water to your house, you cut the line, you put that press on one, you reconnect your water line, and then all of a sudden you have a brand new turnoff valve. Some people call it a source turnoff valve or whatever. So
Make sure you drain the pipe too when you turn off the water.
yeah, it'll get water. That's for sure. So, and again too, like Lori said, when you shut your water down, if there's some reason, let's say you shut your water down and you do need to do a repair like that, which is one of those other classes we'll get into a little bit more later. You always want to turn on. So you go and you turn off your main, say, you always want to turn on usually the lowest faucet. So like if you have a mop sink or a laundry tub or something like that in your basement, fine, turn that on. That helps drain all the water. I also turn on the valves upstairs. What that does is it lets air into the system to be able to get that water out. So it's a little less of a mess when you do actually get into those water lines. So from there, you have your supply line up to your faucet. And you can't see that, but if I turn it, you can. So you can see your water line coming up here. And this connects to your faucet. Those are usually the fun ones to get to. And he said these can be a lot of different things. This is a plastic flexible line. Here's what that looks like. Here, this is the part that actually connects up to the faucet or whatever. You can have, sometimes they're copper, kind of a copper tubing that can be bent and whatnot. You can have flexible lines, this plastic line, and also like this braided line. A lot of times these have a tendency to leak or just get old and brittle. So usually when people are like replacing a faucet or something like that, I'm going to say go ahead and pick up a new set of supply lines for them. I have a tendency to like these. They all come in all different lengths and different sizes. So, what you want is you want to look at, if you're connecting to the toilet, it's a different size on this. I don't know if you're connecting to a kitchen sink or a bathroom sink. It will say what that's for. And then also this end here, you got your turn off, and that just fits right on there. Now there are different sizes with this too. So, but like I said, these are really nice. You can turn these on with just a pair of adjustable wrenches, and you can flex them around if you need to. These are nice because why I like them is they have a less tendency to burst or to break or to rupture or anything along that line. So, and they have a tendency to last quite a while. So, like I said, water supply line up to your faucet. And like I said, lots of different ways to be able to do that. Or your toilet or whatever, So that supplies your water. Like I said, this is, all this is transferable, whether it's your toilet, whether it's your kitchen sink, whatever. And again, I have to kind of keep moving because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. So that's your basic water into the house. That's kind of its path. Now it has to go out. So in this case here, you got your drain lines. So you have this, what's called a P-trap. And the idea on this is that it holds water. And what this is doing is it stops sewer gas from being able to rise up from the sewers, and actually you end up smelling it. It actually comes up through the drain. Sometimes those can dry out. These P-traps can dry out. So let's say you walk into a bathroom you haven't used in a long time or something along that line. And if you haven't smelled sewer gas, well, I can get into it, but you can imagine what it smells like. It doesn't smell good at all. And I've seen it where people have called the plumber because they smell this nasty odor, and the plumber goes, oh, turns the water on, fills this P-trap up with water. Water sits like this, smell goes away, and they're like, excellent, pay me 100 and whatever because I walked in the door and turned on your water. So if you have a sink or even a toilet that's not being used, occasionally run that water, and that's going to fill that P-trap up and stop that sewer gas from being able to run through. So your wastewater runs through here, through the P-trap, around here, and usually goes into, this is PVC. Now it's at old style houses, it may be cast iron, it may be copper. There's a couple of different drain lines that you have. This is 1.5 inch drain line. Usually it's going to go down and into, into the basement or into the crawl space or into the floor if it's slab. And it's going to connect up to larger and larger pipes. And again, it could be a combination. You can have PVC, something like this, and larger. And it could connect up to cast iron, whatever. But like I said, that's your waste line going out. And again, if you got your house or whatever, there, let's say this is your waste and it's running out. Why do I always pick markers that don't work? And then this is all your waste running out to the main road, to the main sewer. And then you have whatever connections up to that. So like I said, water in, water's used, water out. Sewer lines, that is a good question that I just asked myself.
Wasn't a full question, just said sewer lines.
I know, well, I'm getting to that. So here's a question that you might be able to Google, Jason. Is the homeowner responsible for the sewer line where it enters the ground all the way up to where it connects to the road? That's something I am not quite sure on. I think they are here. But, so yeah, I mean, what can happen with these sewer lines is that a lot of times the house was built in the sewer line that's down in the ground and running out to the road where the main sewer is. And I'm talking for a municipal system like this, they actually have sewer, not septic. I'm not getting into that. What can happen is that you may have cast iron or PVC or something along that line, but it may transition once it's in the ground to something like clay pipe. It might be a PVC. It might be a cast iron. It just kind of depends on the area you're in and how old the house is. What can happen is that you may have a big tree in the yard and it will actually get roots and they'll grow into that sewer line because, well, it's full of water and other stuff, and the roots like it, and it can actually clog that sewer line up. So then, yeah, you're responsible to be able to get in there. They may have to be able to send something in there to be able to remove all those roots. You may have to deal with debris and whatnot. Gets caught in there. I know sometimes that line can break. Here they'll use clay tiles. So they'll have clay tiles that are about this long. They're about that round. And they actually fit into each other. And they'll just connect them up out to the main sewer line. And I've seen it where that clay line actually breaks, settles or something along that line. And it makes it so that that stuff backs up. So if you have, like I said, if you have a slow running drain, something along that line, you're going to have what's called a clean out. So usually on the side of that pipe, you're going to have a Y or something like this with a cap on it. And it makes it so that they're able to remove that cap and run down. I think everybody's heard of some kind of a rooter system or something, Mr. Plumber or whatever. And they send their machine down there and it can get out, like I said, roots or blockages or whatever, right? But there's what's called a clean out. Like I said, sometimes it's there. Sometimes that clean out may be on the outside. So let's say with a crawl space or a slab, that sewer line's coming out, say right here, and they may have something popping up like this, and you may have a clean out just on the outside of your house so that they'll be able to access that and run their clean out and whatnot down that sewer line and out to the main. The understanding where that clean out is important because that's usually what the first thing they're going to ask you is, where's your clean out? I've seen it sometimes where they're buried in the wall. I've seen it sometimes where they're outside and your landscaping is totally covered it up. So, this is something that, in the summertime, if you're out doing something and you see this, and it's usually like a 3 to 4 inch cap. Like I said, it can be cast, could be PVC. But a lot of times that gets covered up and people, A, may not even realize it's there, or B, they realize it's there, but they don't know what it is. And the reason I say that too is that you're paying these people by the hour. And if they're having to rat around your house and look for this stuff, it's just time ticking away and more money coming out of your pocket. And I've seen it sometimes where they can't find it and they end up having to cut the main line so they can put in a clean out. So understanding where that clean out is important. So anyways, back to your drain. So like I said, that water goes through your P-trap down into your main sewer line. Here it is, popping here, and it's going to connect up to whatever and out to the main sewer. The other thing is that you have what's called venting. So venting is this pipe right here. So what this does is this runs up, usually through your interior walls, and it pops out your roof. It may connect up to other pipes and whatnot. What this is doing is adding air into your drains. So have you ever had a drain where it just doesn't want to drain real fast? You fill up your kitchen sink or your bathroom sink, and it just doesn't want to drain that quick. It could be a couple things. It could be a clog in your drain, but it also could be bad venting. And the easiest way to think of venting is, y'all remember the metal cans of juice or whatever you used to get, and you'd get the little can opener and you'd have to put a little pour spout in it. You'd always have to punch 2 holes in it, because if you just punch one, it'd drain out, but very, very slowly. Once you punch that second one in, letting that air come in to place that juice, it's the same idea. So this is letting air come in to be able to help siphon that water out. So just that, understanding that venting. And then I said it usually pops through the roof. So that venting is all put in various areas, but you may see a pipe sticking up like this off the roof line. And usually you end up seeing a couple of them, but usually that's some kind of a plumbing vent. So, and that's just letting that air into it and be able to help drain out your system. So on that note,
From what I found, the main sewer line is the responsibility of the city, and the lateral lines from the main into your house are the homeowner's responsibility.
okay. So thank you. So that's good to know, because sometimes what people will do is they'll buy a house and whatnot, and they may get an inspection. And that's great. One thing you may want to do, especially if the house is older, you can have a company come out, and what they'll do is they'll find that clean out, and they'll actually run a camera down through it. And they'll be able to scope that line all the way out to the main. And they're going to be able to find things like, hey, it's full of roots, or hey, it's broken, or something. So that's one of those things that you can have done. It generally isn't too terribly expensive. The fix can be, but that's something that usually, you can have done if you feel that you need it. And, if you're going to be buying a house, especially in an older home, I would suggest, if you have your house inspection, ask if that could be part of that house inspection, as far as having that sewer line scoped out. Because like Jason said, you're responsible for it, and it sucks to have them come out and be able to tear up your yard just so that they can fix your drain or your sewer drain. So I do want to poke at this guy here. So this is what's called a mechanical vent. So sometimes you may look underneath your kitchen sink or your bathroom sink, and they may not have means to be able to hook up to this venting. All right. If you hear this. So what this is what it is it's a cap. You see where this air, it lets it come in. This is just one style. There's a couple of different styles. And it stays shut until water starts to drain through. And what it will do, it'll suck air in, it will lift up that flapper, let air in a sense, creating that venting that it needs to be able to drain. And then that cap closes back down. And a lot of times you're going to see these up in a corner or something like that. So if you look underneath the sink and you see something off to the side, and it may be, solid black, or it may look like this. That's what's called a mechanical vent. And that just means they didn't have means to be able to hook into your venting throughout your house. So plumbers will put these in. Now, the reason I say this is, remember that we were talking about sewer gas, that wonderful smell you get. Let's say you open up your cabinet and you're getting underneath there to get whatever, and you get hit with that smell. Take a look underneath there, and again, if you see that little mechanical vent, sitting off to the back or whatever, one side or the other, give it a rap. Because sometimes what will happen is it stays shut until that goes to drain. But what can happen is that little piece can stick like this and then let sewer gas out where that air comes in. So again, if you smell that and you have one of these mechanical style vents, sometimes all you need to do is just give it a little tap and it makes that stopper seal it back up again. Now, if it's constantly doing that, you may need to change it out. And a lot of times, this one hasn't been opened in a while. There it goes. I can get in there and I can unscrew it. I'm going to put a rag in here. I'm going to take this piece down to the store and, get the same style. You can say, hey, I need a new mechanical vent, this size, whatever. And they'll give it to you. You put a little pipe dope on it. It's like a putty that seals up. And then you thread it back on and you tighten it up, snug it up a little bit, and that's fixed. And that's usually about the easiest thing that you can possibly do. So
I was just saying, make sure you put a rag in there. You said
put a rag in there because once that's open, it's just right open to that sewer line, and you're smelling all that wonderful stuff, and it's not nice. So mechanical vent, something good to know as far as the venting part of your the water, the drain. The other is this. So as far as your drain, like underneath your sinks, bathroom sinks, kitchen sinks, generally there's a couple of different types. Some of the older homes have metal pipe. Usually that metal corrodes away and most people switch over to what's called a PVC style pipe. But this is that P-trap. This is what this is. So I'm bringing it over here so you can see. And what this is just put together. So you got your P-trap, and then you have your pieces that connect up to it and stuff. So what happens most often is you can see how this kind of fits in there like that. And then this collar goes over it, and it snugs down, right? And it can move until you get it to where you need to, and then this is going to connect up to another piece, usually back here. You can see where you can see it from the back a little bit easier. This is a piece here that slips in, and then there's this collar here that tightens it up. So, and then it drains in. So what will happen is these have a tendency to get hit, knocked, whatever. You may have a bunch of stuff underneath there and stuff. And they have a tendency to want to drip and leak. The reason that they do that is, again, what makes these things seal up are these little nylon, usually a nylon style piece. And what that does is that fits over this, and then it connects up to the next piece. And as you tighten this up, this kind of crimps this nylon piece down. And what can happen is that usually one of two things. Either A, it just gets loosened up where almost where this just gets knocked a little bit and it starts leaking up here and dripping and stuff. So sometimes all it takes is for you to be able to go underneath here and just do a little turn by hand. Now I can sit here like this, and that's loosening it. I can turn it by hand and snug it up. That one's really loose. But the reason you want to do it by hand is if you get a big pair of pliers or something along that line and you reef it, what's going to happen is it's going to warp that little nylon. And no matter what you do, it'll leak. The other is I've seen it where a lot of people, this slowly leaks or something, so like gob silicone all around it and everything else. You don't need to do that. Very rarely does the pipe actually get broken or anything. Boils down to this. So back in your good old junk drawer, usually what I'll do is I'll have a couple of these. So you said generally you have 1.5 inches. That's that size. A blue one. That's 1.5 inches. And you might have 1.25 inches. It's usually like for bathroom sinks or something. And then you have various sizes of these. This is 1.5 inches and 1.25 inches. So usually I'll have a couple of these and a couple of these. You can buy them in packs. They're super cheap. And it is very easy to be able to change one of these out. And you can pop that apart, put it back together. And again, this is one of these classes that we'll go through a little bit more. But that is a super easy thing to do. Most homeowners are able to do that. But also remember that if you do have a little leak, just a little turn by hand so you're not warping that nylon collar or that rubber collar like that, and dry it off. What I do is that, if we have that issue or something like that, I'll tighten it up. I'll dry it all off. I'll clear this area out. I'll throw a little paper towel underneath there, and I'll use my sink like you normally do. And sometimes that leak is so small, you may get a little drip, and it may evaporate before you even check it again. But if you have a piece of paper towel there, it's going to show that ring, that water ring or whatever on that paper towel. So at that point, again, it might need just a little more tightening. If you get to a point where you can't tighten it anymore just by hand, fine. That's when you may have to get in and be able to change that little nylon sleeve on it. Why is that a big deal? Well, the amount of water that's acceptable to be leaking in a house is 0. because I've seen a small little leak that boils down to somebody going totally destroy their cabinet, move through that, and destroy their floor. And I've even seen it where it destroys the, if you got a floor joist or something, where it starts eating into that. So a simple, you can buy a pack of these for, $2 or something, and it's a 2-minute fix. Can turn into thousands and thousands of dollars in damage and structural damage just from a little leak. So understanding those is good. Like I said, it's super easy to be able to do. And when we have a class like that, we'll actually get into tearing it all apart and being able to show you that stuff.
We have a couple of questions about drains.
Okay.
Would you like to talk about them now?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're talking about them.
I think I'm having that issue with roots in my main line right now.
Okay.
That or the venting is partially clogged. But having a thing where air appears to be venting out through the main level toilet when the upstairs toilet is flushed.
It bubbles and stuff.
Do some older houses vent through the chimney?
I've never heard of them venting through the chimney, and I hope they wouldn't. I have heard that sometimes you have an elbow or something like that where the vent may be clogged with debris, that sort of stuff. I've seen it sometimes where that vent has gotten cut out over time or just bypassed for whatever reason. Again, the old homes, you don't know what the heck. Something like that, you would probably want to have a plumber come out. And that's one of those things, again, like we say all the time, if you have someone come out to be able to do that, make sure they're licensed and insured and all that good stuff. But yeah, that's something that you may want to have them take a look at. Because usually what they're going to do is they're going to go after the easiest thing first, which is usually a clogged drain. They'll probably ask you a few questions and whatnot. Because it might be, like I said, it might be roots. It might be a broken line. Hopefully not. But I've seen that where you get a clog or you get a busted line, and it's not a consistent backup. But yeah, I would have somebody check that out. Because really, once you get past, for most homeowners, once you get past this point right here, and you start getting into your main line, your main drain, you don't want to mess with it. You really don't. So I definitely would call somebody out. Because I've seen it too, where sometimes all it needs to be is cleaned out. They may actually run what's called a snake or clean out. And, this may be filled with grease or soap scum or whatever, hairballs, all sorts of things. And, sometimes they can get in there and clean that out and it solves the problem. And this is where I said a good plumber is going to be able to look at that and be able to kind of go through that process. Hopefully that helped you.
Okay. Can snakes and rodents enter your house through the sewer pipes, or is that just a rumor? How do I keep them out?
I have never, I don't know. That's a good one. I mean, I've heard of that also. I've never seen a snake or anything climb out of the toilet, but I guess anything's possible. I don't know. That's a good question.
Some spiders climb out of drains.
Yeah, I've seen spiders climb out of drains. How are you going to keep them out? I don't know on that one. It's a good question. So, any clues, Jason?
No, I was the one who asked the question.
Oh
man, I'm gonna throw something at you now. All right, so yeah, that's your main drain, and we're quickly running out of time. So, like I said, you should be looking underneath there, anywhere you have draining water, and there should be no leaks at all. If there's a leak, hand tighten first. If it's still not going, we'll get into, actually replacing this, that sort of thing. One of the others is, drips from your faucets. So, like with this one here, There's a valve inside here, and again, this is part of a class we're not going to get into, but it's another class where the valve itself may be leaking. You may have to change that. But again, you have to be able to shut that water down at this turnoff, ideally, or your main turnoff downstairs. You know, a lot in valves are all sorts of things. I mean, here's a valve. You know, this is a valve for, this is a valve and springs like for a single-handled faucet. You got ones like this that are for this is like a tub shower. So I'm pulling this little collar off and see if I can actually get this sucker out. There's the valve. You know, so, you know, that's all very doable. And like I said, this is another class where we talk about how to get into and be able to change out those valves. But again, you need to understand where your water turnoff is and all that first to be able to do this. So, being able to change those valves out, you know, a lot of different styles, all that sort of stuff. But, you know, understanding that basic stuff is important. So I'm going to branch off into a few other little areas before we run out of time in about 10 minutes. So again, back to your basement. So if you're not sure where your water turnoff is, whatnot, go down there, look, find it. Again, gate style valve or some kind of a ball valve like this. Remember, inline is always open with a ball valve. Against it, parallel against it is closed. And that holds true with a lot of things. And you'll see me talking about this in other classes. Same with the gas line, right? So again, this is a turn off for your gas line. Like this is turned off. And in line is open. So the other kind of piping you're probably going to see in your basement is black pipe. So if you have natural gas, a lot of times that natural gas is run in a hard black metal pipe. There is also flex. I'm not going to get into that, but for the most part, it's black pipe that's going to run natural gas, and that's something like this. You will see people that will run natural gas or galvanized. Not recommended. Black pipe generally is gas line.
So don't mess with the black pipes.
Yeah, don't mess with the black pipes. I've seen it where people are going to fix their plumbing and they cut into their gas line. That's bad. So understanding that, generally black pipe or that orange flex pipe, like you would see like behind a stove and stuff like that. Sometimes that they'll use that depending on the situation, but that's generally natural gas. The other thing is with your water lines. So we talked about that main water line coming into your home. That water is cold usually, right? And what will happen is that even in an unfinished basement, even a finished basement, it doesn't really matter. If you have a high level of humidity in the house, let's say in the summertime, and you're getting water on the floor and whatnot, take a look at those water lines and think about that nice cool glass of lemonade on a warm day that I am so waiting for right now.
The warm day,
it does,
not the lemonade.
Huh?
The warm day, not the lemonade.
Oh, I'll look forward to both. But anyways, that cold water line can sweat and it can drip. And it, you know, most of the time it's going into an unfinished basement. It's just water on the floor. But it can cause damage. So if you have water pipes that sweat, I don't care if they're copper, I don't care if they're PEX, I don't care if they're galvanized, you can insulate those pipes. So, you know, I'll pick on the galvanized line. So this is 3/4 line. I can buy 3/4, or I can cover copper pipes. Copper pipes usually have more of a tendency. And I can, you know, I buy these in 4 or 5 foot lengths or longer, and I can wrap these pipes. And most people think of this as keeping like hot water lines insulated. It works with cold water lines too. What it does is it makes it so that that warm, moist air doesn't touch that cold pipe and condensate and drip all over the place. So you can insulate those cold lines if they're giving you problems as far as sweating and dripping all over the place. The other is your shower heads, whatnot. Shower heads, I don't have a shower mock-up here, but you know, there's your good old thing like this. So your shower heads generally, you know, all sorts of shower heads out there, but that's just it. You know, you saw me unscrew that and screw that in. Generally, that's about it. Now, I do want to pick on something. Now, you heard me talk about pipe dope. Well, I call it pipe dope. Some people will understand what's called Teflon tape. They're both acceptable. So the reason you use this is that you don't want that water seeping through these threads and dripping. So like I said, I like the paste. Comes in a tube and you just smear it on and you thread it on and you're done. If you're using something like what's called a Teflon tape, it's a real thin tape. That's acceptable. This has been used for years. But what you have to keep in mind is when you take that off, and you may have this stuff come off, you clean off these threads. And if you're using Teflon tape, what you need to do is you wrap it in the same direction that you're going to put it on. So that good old righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So I'm putting it on, in a sense, clockwise. So snap it off. Go like this. Then I'm going to thread that in. Just again, you should be able to turn it by hand. If you're not being able to turn it by hand right away, it means it's cross-threaded. Don't force it. And I snug it up. Sometimes you may need a pair of pliers or whatever. If it's all finished out and you don't want to scratch it, put tape around either this or your plier ends. Snug it up a little bit. And what that does is it just stops that water from leaking through that thread. But if you put it on opposite, what happens is when you turn it on, it unravels all that stuff. So that's just kind of the thing to think about with that Teflon tape is you always apply it in the same way that you're going to be tightening something on. So that righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, clockwise or counterclockwise. So something to keep in mind. So they said Teflon tape or a paste. That's why I like the paste. I don't have to think about it. Because usually you're upside down and you're like, wait, this way. Enough to drive you nuts. The other is what are called aerators. So I'm not going to be able to get I am able to get this guy off. Oh, nice. So you have these aerators. And what they do is you have a little rubber seal. And it just makes it so that water's not spraying out all over. Sometimes what happens is these get clogged up. So you may have something going on, like they're digging out in the road or they're flushing the hydrants or something along that line, and it breaks crud loose. And what will happen occasionally is that you go to turn the water on, and it's this pathetic little trickle coming out of the trouble with triples. Anyways, it's this little pathetic dribble coming out. And what you can do though is, first what I'm going to do is make sure that your turnoff didn't get knocked or something. I'll check. Okay, yeah, that's open. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unscrew this. All different styles and everything else. Sometimes getting it off of it, if it hasn't been off in a long time, can be tricky. Some faucets actually require a special little tool that comes with the faucet. We'll get into that in a minute. I'm showing you basics. And you can look in there and sometimes it's full of, like rusty, cruddy stuff. And sometimes all you need to do is just kind of clean it out, turn your water on, rinse it out, that sort of thing. Some of them have a little thing you can press where it's going to clean it out and put it in. Aerator's good. Sometimes the aerator's just falling apart. Take it down to your hardware store and say, I have one like this. Because again, when you look at the wall, you're going to see all different types of aerators. Match it up or give it to somebody to help you find it. Put your new one on, screw it in. Great. You know, they have aerators that will help you save money as far as water usage. And also, like with the shower head, some people like to be able to save some money on water usage. So that aerator is a way to help cut down that water usage. And then like a low flow shower head or something like that. And those are really easy to do. I will say this, if let's say you replace your faucet or something along that line, some of the more modern faucets, people don't like that look, right? They don't want to see that sticking down. So it's maybe tucked up inside. And that's where it may come with this little plastic tool, with little teeth on it. And you stick it up there and then you'll feel it click in. You're able to unscrew it. That's usually the first thing that gets lost. So again, back to your junk drawer or your little parts bin or something like that. If you have something like that, great. That's what it's for. Habitat people probably should know what I'm talking about because I'm always giving that to the partner saying, you want to keep this? So
Tape it to the bottom of your sink.
Yeah, whatever. Right. Yeah, that's a good idea. You can tape it right underneath here, whatever you need to do. But, you know, I said changing those aerators out or cleaning them out once in a while, whether it's kitchen sink, bathroom sink, you know, they're all similar. They may look very different. They serve the same purpose. So changing those aerators out. And I've run out of time. So do we have anything else?
We have
Any
a
other
follow-up
questions?
question from Ben, who had asked earlier about the clogged drain.
Okay.
Do you want to read that one, or do you want me to
Yeah,
read it?
thanks. There are roots cleared out of the main drain a few years ago. Been running root killer through a couple of times a year and haven't had the issue until about the last 6 months. I don't have a pipe wrench big enough to open the clean out, so I have been flushing root killer through the closest toilet.
Yeah, and that is a way to do that too. I will say this, sometimes I've heard, and actually you bring something up, sometimes like a Drano or a root killer or something along that line, sometimes you want to read that fine print. I've heard of cases where if you have, remember we were talking about the P-trap, right? I've heard of cases where if it's metal and you send down certain like drain openers, acidic drain openers and stuff, you could actually attack the metal. I'm not sure if it's the same way with cast iron, but that might be something to look at. So I guess keep that in mind or ask that question. And like I said, if you are using some kind of a drain, whatever, just make sure it works with what you got. So you don't want to tear up what you have just by what you're using. And you think they wouldn't sell the stuff, but they do. So any other questions? All right. I've gone over 5 minutes. Sorry, everybody. Hopefully this helps. And tune in for the other classes.
All right. Great.
Thank
you very much, Lee. I did also email or texted our plumbing instructor, Steve from ER Plumbing, this evening to ask him the question about rodents and so on coming up through your waste pipe, which we've all heard rumors about that, and I didn't know if it was true or not. He said it is true, and you would have to put a check valve on your sewer system. It's also known as a backwater valve. So I'm not familiar with that, but apparently you can have a problem with rodents or whatever coming into your house through your sewer. So Steve says, yes, that is a possibility. Anyway, I hope everyone enjoyed the workshop. If you did find something useful here, please shoot on over to our website, communityhomeworks.org, and please make donation to support these workshops and our other programs. We'd appreciate that. I also wanted to once again thank Lee and Lori for helping out tonight. And next week, I'm not sure what we're having next week. We're either having storm window repair, or we might switch it around and have electrical systems next week. So we're still working with instructors to see about rearranging a couple schedules. So tune in next Tuesday at 6 o'clock, and there will be another great program. We just don't know what it is yet. So that all works. Again, thank you for tuning in. If you have further questions, please put it in the comment section, and we will try to get back to those as soon as we can. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a great evening, and take care, everyone. Bye-bye.